Krishna Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Nice kitten ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
So we'll start. We should not waste much
Yes,
time.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So, we are starting our session, and His Grace Harilila Prabhu is with us. So, all of us, we heartily welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Grace Harilila Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Over to you, Prabhuji.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam sukamka tamrita dravasamyutam pivata bhagavatam rasamalayam mudrago rasika bhuvibhavakaha Narayanam namaskritya naranchaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Nashtaprayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om Ajnanatimandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurun Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shurnavadi Paschaita Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangalangaya Tegram Kupatam Hamande Shigrum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishram Kathanchana Smrite Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Smrite Parikarishyat Sri Chaitanyam Namamatam. So yesterday we saw the first shloka in the beginning. We also saw the introduction of the first canto. We also saw why it is called creation, the first canto. That what is the primary purpose of creation? Anybody remembers what is the primary purpose of creation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. To know that who is the creator.
And then do what?
And to understand that he's the original creator and
and go back to him.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, enjoyment for the conditioned soul.
Yeah, that's not the primary purpose. Yesterday I said that that's not the primary purpose. It maybe looks like the creation is actually made for the enjoyment of the conditioned soul, but it's not the primary purpose. The primary purpose of creation is to go back home, back to Godhead, to get love of Godhead, to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's the primary purpose of creation. So throughout the first canto, this purpose of creation will become very clear. It's so much so that, Kunti will say that let there be more trouble. As long as we can remember you through troubles, we welcome troubles. So the primary purpose of creation is actually to understand the Creator, understand the purpose of creation, and then go back to him. So that's the primary purpose of creation. So we saw that yesterday. And then we started reading a little bit of the purport yesterday. We just read some small portion of the purport. Now we'll read from the second paragraph. Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so will be is okay. How this is so is explained in the later chapters of this work. This work is described by Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana because it contains the transcendental narrations of personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. The history of Bhagavatam is also very glorious. It was compiled by Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instruction of Naradji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literature containing the 4 divisions of Vedas, the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutras, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narada advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Sri Krishna. These transcendental activities are described specifically in the 10th canto of his work. But in order to reach the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing the knowledge of categories. Okay. So now in this paragraph, Prabhupada makes many important points. So the first important point he makes is that Lord Krishna is the cause of all causes. So this will be explained throughout Bhagavatam, how he is the cause of all causes. Okay. Especially in the second canto and third canto, the subject matter will be discussed very elaborately, how the Lord is the cause of all causes. And Bhagavatam is spotless Purana. Why it is spotless Purana? Okay. Because it actually speaks about the highest possible relationship between Jiva and Krishna. So that the highest possible relationship is a relationship without any spot. It is spotless relationship. So since Bhagavatam presents that relationship as the only purpose of human life, Bhagavatam does not present love of Godhead as one of the most important purposes of human life. Bhagavatam does not present love of Godhead as one of the purposes of human life. It just presents love of Godhead as the only purpose of human life. It doesn't present in any other way. If you read Bhagavatam completely, you can clearly understand that there is only one purpose for human existence. That is to develop love for Krishna. There is no other purpose for human existence. All other purposes are simply meant to serve that one purpose. So everything else is simply meant to serve that particular purpose. Whatever we do in life, whatever we do, this will become very clear in the second canto, in the 4th shloka of Chatushloki. So Krishna will tell to Brahma, Etavadeva jignasyam tattva jignasuratmanaha anvayat vyatirekaabhyam yasmat sarvatra sarvada. So whatever you want to inquire, you have to inquire up to that end. Etavadeva jignasyam. That tattva jignasuratmanaha means that the actual position of the jiva with respect to Krishna. Tattva, that means that, tva means you. So what is your position? Atmanaha, tattva jignasuratmanaha. What is your position? My position is that I love Krishna and Krishna loves me. This is my position. So every inquiry should be made up to realizing that fact. We may make many inquiries on the way of realizing that fact. And Bhagavatam itself is a good example. You'll find many questions being asked in Bhagavatam by many speakers. Like the Saunakadi Rishis have asked 6 questions. Then Parikshit Maharaj will ask 3-4 questions. Then after that, Parikshit Maharaj will ask dozens of questions. Then Vidura will ask many questions. Then again, Parikshit will ask many questions. So many questions have to be asked. And all those questions have to be asked to what end? That is the most important thing. Because questions are being asked. That's why in the beginning of Bhagavatam, in the beginning of second canto, in the beginning, Sukadeva Goswami criticizes certain type of questions. He says, Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nirnam Santi Sahasrasaha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedina. That simply asking question also is not very good, because there are millions of questions being asked every day and millions of answers being given, and asking question and giving answer is the biggest business nowadays. People are having many different mediums to ask question and give answer. So initially when Google came, everybody thought Google is the ultimate solution for asking question and giving answer. Now Chat GPT has come. And nobody now is using Google. Everybody is going to Chat GPT because Chat GPT is a better platform to ask question and get answer. So different research is being made in asking question and giving answer, but are those questions useful? Are those answers useful? So in the estimate of Sukadeva Goswami, those questions and answers have no value because they are simply on how to keep the body and mind satisfied. So if we go to the later chapters of this canto, we will find that Vyasadeva will remain dissatisfied. So here also it is said, Vyasadeva, he actually was dissatisfied. He did many things. He compiled the Vedas, he wrote Vedanta Sutra, he wrote the Puranas, he wrote Mahabharata, he did many things, but he was not satisfied. Why he was not satisfied? This point is highlighted by Narada when he meets Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is dissatisfied and Narada Muni comes. When Narada Muni comes, Vyasadeva welcomes him. Then Narada Muni asked Vyasadeva one question. What is the question he asked him? He asked him, are you satisfied by identifying the body and mind as the objects of self-realization? This is the question he asked him. Because the entire Karma Kanda is about identifying body as the object of sense gratification. Most of Jnana Kanda is about identifying the mind as the object of sense gratification, so of the object of satisfaction. So Karma Kanda tries to satisfy the senses of the body. Jnana Kanda tries to satisfy the quest of the mind. But neither by satisfying the senses of the body, nor by satisfying the quest of the mind, one could actually attain ultimate satisfaction. That's the point. So how ultimate satisfaction is attained? So ultimate satisfaction is attained when one tries to situate himself in one's constitutional position. So Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter. That having attained this position, one understands that there's nothing better than this to attain. Till we reach that position, we have to be dissatisfied, because in this material world, we have to expect dissatisfaction. That whatever we do in this material world, that is going to cause some dissatisfaction, especially if we try to satisfy our body and mind. We'll always find that there is dissatisfaction. So that in order to remove that defect, so how to remove that defect? In order to remove that defect, one should understand the real substance. So this will be discussed in elaborately in the second shloka. Okay. But how to understand the substance? You have to understand the substance by gradually developing knowledge of the categories. Now, who is the substance? The substance is Krishna. And what are the categories? The categories are multifold. Multifold. The categories are multifold. There is Krishna's own potency, which is one category, by which Krishna appears as various incarnations, etc. Prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavami atmamaya, Krishna says. And within that, there is a whole lot of divisions. There is Prakasha, there is Vilasa, there is Amsha, there is Kala, there is Prabhava Vilas, there is Vaibhava Vilas. So there are multiple categories of Vishnu Tattva who are all Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are all Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of them are Supreme Personality of Godhead, but within them, there are different variations. Some of them are expansions, some of them are expansions of expansions. The various variations. So this is one category. There is Krishna and there is Vishnu Tattva. The entire Vishnu Tattva, the science of Vishnu Tattva remains as one category. That was explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Sanatana Siksha. That when he instructed Sanatana Goswami, he explained about the various expansions of Vishnu Tattva, what are they, what are the differences between them, and how they act, etc. What are the type of powers they display, etc. There's one category. Then the other category is Jiva Tattva. So Jiva Tattva, again, within the Jiva Tattva, there are multiple divisions based on the bodily forms within the material world. So there are multiple divisions. All this will be explained in the third canto. Like there are different multiple divisions based on the bodily form. There is Vaikrita creation, which is by Brahma. And the Vaikrita creation is of different types. And then there is Maya, which is another energy of Krishna, which is external energy. And then there is Krishna's internal energy, the embodiment of Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, Srimati Radharani, and her expansions, who are the principal Sakhis, and their expansions who are the other Sakhis, etc. And then there are Sakhis, Manjaris, so there's a whole set of expansion like that. So one has to start from what one sees, what one experiences. We are experiencing this material world. This is where we need to start from, because this is in front of us. So we have to start from here, and then by carefully studying this material world, one should try to reach up to the spiritual world by making relevant inquiries. That's what one should do. And that's what Bhagavatam does. Bhagavatam actually starts with the material world. If you find the second canto and third canto, you'll find a lot of discussion about the material world. It's all discussion about material world, material world, material world, material world. But there is some glimpse of spiritual world. There's some glimpse of Krishna's pastimes in the beginning of third canto. There's glimpse of Vaikuntha. There's some glimpse of spiritual world. Then from fourth canto onwards, then you start studying about various devotees and how they are and what are their activities, etc., etc. You keep studying. And along with the devotees, it is invariably you have to study about the Lord also, because the Lord and devotees are inseparable from each other. If you study about one, you have to study about the other. There is no way of studying about one and not studying about the other, because they both are very closely related. The Lord and the devotees, they both are very closely related. And they have one mission. Their mission is to take back all the conditioned souls to the supreme goal. So therefore, studying about devotees means studying about Lord in various incarnations until we go to the stage of reaching the 10th canto, where the Supreme Absolute Truth, he displays his full opulence. There is unrestricted display of the opulence of the Supreme Absolute Truth. There is no restriction in the display of the opulence. So that unrestricted display, in order to appreciate that, one should actually appreciate Krishna's greatness. Without appreciating Krishna's greatness, one cannot appreciate Krishna's sweetness. Because if an ordinary person deals with you very sweetly, that's not a big thing for you. Some ordinary person deals with you very nicely, very sweetly, that's not a big thing for you. You think that, okay, he's a nice person. It doesn't make any big impact on you. But someone who is very great, he deals with you very nicely, then it makes a lasting impact on you. Like, for example, your spiritual master. If he deals with you very nicely, very sweetly, if he has some very sweet dealings with you, it actually makes a very lasting impact on you, because he is a great person and you are aware of his greatness. He is not only a great person, but you're also aware of his greatness. And when he deals with you nicely, you think, oh, such a great person is dealing with me so nicely. Then how great he should be. Then you start appreciating his greatness better as a person, because his sweetness is more sweet because you understand his greatness. But when it comes to Krishna, Krishna is so great that if you understand his greatness, you will simply be carried away by his sweetness. And his sweetness is so sweet that if you understand his great sweetness, you will forget his greatness. That's how Krishna is. But in order to forget that greatness by appreciating Krishna's sweetness, first of all, one should know Krishna's greatness. Because without knowing that greatness, you will not be fully able to appreciate the extent of his sweetness. So therefore, the first 9 cantos helps us to understand and appreciate Krishna's greatness through the experience of various devotees. And they come from all walks of life. It's not that they just belong to one class. They don't belong to one class. Like starting from children to demons, there's a huge spectrum of people who are talking about Krishna's greatness. Like the 4-year-old children, 5-year-old children, like, like Dhruva, like Prahlad, there are demigods like Indra, there are great sages like Kardama, and like Kashyapa. There are women like Kunti, Draupadi, Vindhyavali. There are kings of demons like Bali, highly powerful like Bali, or there are simple sages, or those who are saturated with devotion like Narada. There are great kings who come like Prithu. So different, like Lord Shiva, Brahma, the different demigods, so many different people, like some simple Brahmana, so many different people, so many different walks of life. Everyone is speaking, and everyone is speaking from a certain perspective, and that perspective is very, very educated. And that is a specialty of Bhagavatam. You'll find that in Bhagavatam, nobody is sitting in a very nice, comfortable position and appreciating Krishna like us. We are all sitting in our house. We're all sitting in a very comfortable position. And then we are looking at the screen. We are trying to appreciate Krishna. In Bhagavatam, nobody has that luxury. Each and every person in Bhagavatam is actually, from material perspective, in deep trouble. Any person you take in Bhagavatam, they are in extreme amount of trouble. Like Parishit Maharaj, he's going to die in 7 days, and he's going to be bitten by a snake. You take Prahlad, he's constantly being harassed by his own father. His father wants to murder him. Not that simply his father wants to punish him or beat him or nothing like that. He actually wants to murder him. His father wants to murder him. You take Dhruva, his father himself, when his stepmother throws him out of the house, the father is not able to do anything. He goes shelterless to the forest. 5-year-old boy, he has to go to forest and then do tapasya without any shelter. It's not so easy. You take Vritrasura. The Lord conspires to kill him along with his enemy, who is Indra. And Vritrasura is very happy. Okay, now the Lord has decided that I should be killed. So he encourages Indra that, Lord has told that I will be killed, so you please fight and kill me. So you find that each and every person in Bhagavatam, Bali, he is telling Vamanadev that you're not very intelligent. You don't know how to ask some charity, because anybody who asks charity from me, they should not go and ask anything from anybody else for next 7 generations. I can give so much. I am the exclusive lord of the 3 planetary systems. I am Tribhuvana Ishwara. And you are asking from me just 3 steps of land. What is this? That same Bali is arrested by Vamanadev. And Vamanadev is telling Bali, hey, you didn't keep your promise. You're going to go to hell. But Bali doesn't bat an eyelid in completely surrendering himself to Krishna. So people are in deep trouble. Everybody in Bhagavatam is in deep trouble. Why? Why they are in deep trouble? You know why? Why nobody in Bhagavatam is not in trouble? Yes. Rukmini Harisavini Mataji.
Because Krishna wants to show the supremacy not of himself, of his devotees, that how elevated his devotees are.
Okay, right, nice. Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, because when we are in deep trouble, we can call out to Krishna in the best possible manner.
Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Because they take that also as mercy of Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, anybody else? Whatever you told is correct only, yeah, it's not wrong. But I'll also give one more reason. Oh, somebody else is saying something in the chat. Wait. Somebody is saying something in the chat. What did they say? Deep trouble is true testing ground for our devotion. Okay, good. So here I have two devotees sitting in front of me in person. So one of them wants to say something. Yes. Okay, so Krishna is Akinchana Vita. He wants to make sure that devotees wants nothing but him. So that is his answer. Okay. So I'll add one more answer. Okay. The nature of this material world is that whether you like or not, you will always be in trouble. Okay. This is the very nature of this material world. Okay. And this nature is given by Krishna himself. Krishna says that this dukkalayam ashasvatam. Okay. And both these adjectives Krishna uses for this material world are sure shot signs of trouble. It is dukkalayam. Okay. That means lot of misery will come. One misery after another misery will keep coming. This is called dukkalayam. Okay. One may say, no, I am not facing any misery. Whatever I want, I am getting. I am so rich. I am so this. I am so that. I have no misery in my life. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. But it is not permanent. It will not stay. It will simply go away from you. Time will simply take it away from you. Time will come as death and take away everything from you. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham asashvatam. If you say there is no dukkha, but that is also not permanent. So therefore you have to be miserable. This material world is a place of misery. It's a very nature of this material world. So nobody can wait for misery to go away to become Krishna conscious. Okay. This is like saying that let the waves stop, then I will go and take bath in the ocean. Waves are never going to stop. So with the waves only you have to go and take bath in the ocean. So nobody can be out of trouble and practice Krishna consciousness. Because the very nature of this place is that this place is troublesome. So therefore you have to learn to practice Krishna consciousness while you are in trouble. Okay. Now, what Bhagavatam does is that it assembles all the worst kind of trouble you can be in. Okay. If you are a child, if your father itself is your enemy, that's the worst kind of trouble for a child. Okay. If you are a wife, if your husband is incompetent, that's the worst kind of trouble for a husband. And if you are a husband, if your wife is always scheming, that's the worst kind of trouble for the wife, for the husband. If you are a king and you don't have a good spiritual master, that's the worst kind of trouble you can have as a king. So like that, if you actually see, everybody in Bhagavatam has their worst kind of trouble. So in spite of that trouble, they are Krishna conscious. So now if you make a comparative study of the trouble which they are having to the trouble you are having, you find that, oh, my trouble is very small when compared to the trouble these guys are having. If they can be Krishna conscious, I can also be Krishna conscious. So this is what the first 9 canto teaches us. And in the process, it also teaches us that when you are in trouble, if you take shelter of Krishna, that is the way to solve your trouble. You can't solve your trouble by not taking shelter of Krishna. That is the essential realization of Arjuna in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So in 2.7, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. Okay. Everybody knows famous shloka, Karpanya dosha bhata swabhava, Tachamitvam dharma sammuda cheta. It's Shreyaham Nishitam Bruhitan me Shishesteham Shadimam Tam Prapat. Everybody knows this shloka. Very famous. Okay. But 2.8 is also very important, because in 2.8, Arjuna actually tells that simply changing this situation is not going to solve my problem. Like, let us say theoretically, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. Then Krishna says, okay, since you now surrendered to me, no more war, nothing. I stop the war because I am God. I can stop the war. I stop the war. I give you the kingdom back. I am God. I can do all these things. So take the kingdom, no more war. Okay, go home, enjoy. Let's say theoretical scenario. Arjuna is telling, even if you do this, my problem is not going to get solved, Krishna. So because my problem is no longer about this war. My problem is no longer about fighting. My problem is no longer about kingdom. My problem has become very basic. He says, Nahi prapashyami mamanupadyat yachoham uchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhumau asapatnam riddham rajyam suranam apichadipatyam. Avapya bhumau asapatnam riddham rajyam suranam apichadipatyam. Avapya bhumau, if I get control of all this earthly planet, asapatnam is without enmity. There's no enmity. There's no Duryodhana, nobody is fighting with me. Without enmity, without war, I get control of this entire earthly planet. And I get a kingdom which is equal to the demigods, Rajyam Suranam Avichadipatyam. If I get Adipatya of kingdom, which is as good as the kingdom of demigods, still Nahi Prapashyami, this is not going to go away. What is not going to go away? Mama anupadyat yachoham uchoshanam indriyanam. This misery which has caught hold of my senses and drying it up, this misery is not going to get over simply by getting a kingdom without war. Krishna, this is no longer about war. This is no longer about kingdom. This is about my existence. That what is my duty and what is good for me. So, therefore, that very existential problem is resolved by taking shelter of Krishna. Okay. And that is what you will learn in 9 cantos. In 9 cantos, you will learn that this is what will happen. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. In order to reach the very substance, one should proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. That what is the nature of this material world? What is our own nature? What is the nature of Krishna consciousness? What is the nature of other levels of consciousness? There are different levels of consciousness. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, no? That there is Prana, there is Annamaya, there is Pranamaya, there is Jnanamaya, there is Vijnanamaya, and there is Anandamaya. What is the nature of each level of consciousness? One should study these things. And how to study? One should study by studying the 9 cantos of Bhagavatam. And then one will understand Krishna and one will be ready for 10th canto. It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know about the origin of creation. At night, he sees the stars in the sky and he naturally speculates about their inhabitants. Such inquiries are natural for a man because man has developed consciousness which is higher than the animals. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam gives direct answer to such inquiries. He says that Lord Sri Krishna is the origin of all creation. He is not only the creator of the universe, he is destroyer as well. Janmadhyasya yataha. Janmadhyasya, asya means all this. Janma adi means that there is creation, there is maintenance, and there is destruction. Asya, this material world, this manifested world. Yataha, that particular person, he is that person. So he is the one. He is the one. That is clearly identified. The manifested cosmic nature is created for a certain period by the will of the Lord. It is maintained for a certain time and is annihilated by his will. Therefore, the Supreme Will is behind the cosmic activity. Of course, there are atheists of various categories who do not believe in Creator, but that is due to poor fund of knowledge. The modern scientist, for example, has created space satellites, and by some arrangement or other, these satellites are thrown into outer space for flying for some time at the control of the scientist who is far away. Similarly, all the universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why the Lord does it? Why the creation is there? Why the creation happened by His will? In order to satisfy our desire, this creation happened by His will. The Lord decided that, okay, let me satisfy the desire. Why did the Lord want to satisfy my desire? Sometimes people ask, oh, I wanted to go to material world. Why did the Lord satisfy my desire? He is God. He should not have satisfied my desire. He just kept me in the spiritual world. No. The very nature of Krishna is to satisfy the desire of Jiva. In the Upanishad, it is said, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Yeko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kama. That's Krishna's very nature. Krishna wants to satisfy the desire of the Jiva. If Jiva wants to enjoy with Krishna, Krishna is ready to satisfy that desire. If Jiva wants to enjoy away from Krishna, Krishna wants to satisfy, ready to satisfy that desire also. So therefore, simply to satisfy the desire of the Jiva, this creation is there. In the Vedic literature, it is said the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead is chief among all living personalities. This is a Nityo Nityanam. He is the first among the beings. Brahma, down to the smallest ant, are all individual beings. And above Brahma, there are even other living beings with individual capacities, and Supreme Personality of Godhead is also similar living being. He is an individual as other living beings. But the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Living Being has the greatest intelligence, and he possesses supermost inconceivable energies of different varieties. If a man's brain can produce space satellite, one can very easily imagine how brains higher than man can produce similar wonderful things which are far superior. The reasonable person will easily accept this argument, but there are stubborn atheists who will never agree. This is Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. Even the greatest scientists are bewildered how God works. There was a great scientist, his name was Stephen Hawking. Maybe some of you know. He wrote a very famous book. He was very proud of that book because in that book he used only one equation. So he considered it as a big achievement that he could actually write a book with only one equation because he was a great physicist. And he wrote a book called History of Time and Space. So he tried to dedicate his whole life to explain how the creation is godless. That was his main idea, that he wanted to explain to the whole world that how there is no God prepared for creation. So for that, he tried to make a lot of research. But of course, he died. So there are people who are with fertile brain, but they are confused. They're confused that they cannot see that there is an intelligent design behind creation. Srila Vyasadeva, however, at once accept the supreme intelligence as Parameshwara. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He offers obeisance unto the supreme intelligence addressed as Para or Parameshwara or the Supreme Lord. That Parameshwara is Sri Krishna, as admitted in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures delivered by Sri Vyasadeva, specifically in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that there is no other Paratattva, Samam Bonam, than himself. Therefore, Sri Vyasadeva at once worshipped the Paratattva, Sri Krishna, whose transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto. Now, unscrupulous person go immediately to the 10th canto, especially to the 5 chapters, which is described as Lord's Rasa dance. People want to speak about it. People want to go there. People want to explain it. People want to make Bhagavad Sapta about it. So many different people want to simply go directly to the 10th canto because 10th canto is Krishna's pastime. But what is the problem going to 10th canto? The problem going to 10th canto directly is that you tend to actually see Krishna's pastimes as stories. You don't actually appreciate that Supreme Lord who actually by his glance, by his breathing, creates millions of universes from the pores of his body and withdraws them by his breathing in. that Supreme Lord has become a cowherd boy. And he's playing pastimes as a cowherd boy. That we cannot appreciate if we directly go to 10th canto. If we cannot appreciate creation, you cannot go to 10th canto. There's a very strong relationship between understanding creation and understanding rasa dance. When we study third canto, you'll actually find this relationship very, very strong. You'll see that in the third canto, there is a series of explanation about creation. And in those series of explanations, Prabhupada frequently refers to rasa dance. Because there is some strong relationship between creation and rasa dance. Unscrupulous persons go immediately to 10th canto, and especially the first 5 chapters, the 5 chapters it describes Lord's rasa dance. This portion of Bhagavatam is the most confidential part of the great literature. Unless one is thoroughly accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, one is sure to misunderstand Lord's worshipable transcendental pastime called rasa dance and his love affair with the gopis. This subject matter is highly spiritual, and only liberated souls who have gradually attained to the stage of Paramahamsa can transcendentally relish the rasa dance. Srila Vyasadeva therefore gives the reader the chance to develop spiritual realization before actually relishing the essence of the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, he purposely invokes Gayatri Mantra, Dhimahi. This Gayatri Mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. One who is successful in chanting the Gayatri Mantra, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire Brahmanical qualities or be perfectly situated in the quality of mode of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendental realizing the Lord, his name, his fame, his qualities, and so on. This is a very important point. Why Vyasadeva introduced the word Dhimahi in the first sloka? Because being in mode of passion and being in mode of ignorance, one cannot catch Krishna. Neither in mode of ignorance nor in mode of passion. What is the nature of mode of ignorance? The nature of mode of ignorance is craziness and laziness. This is what Krishna explains in 14th chapter. Lazy and crazy. A person in mode of ignorance is lazy, he is crazy. And Prabhupada said very clearly, ISKCON is not meant for lazies and crazies. Why ISKCON is not meant for lazies and crazies? Because being lazy and crazy, you cannot accept, you cannot understand Krishna or Krishna consciousness. You'll simply spend your time. One of the greatest obstacles to chanting is what? Inattentive chanting. Inattentive chanting. Indifference to chanting. And that comes due to laziness and craziness. So therefore, mode of ignorance is not good. One may say, okay, mode of ignorance is not good, but mode of passion is good. If you're passionate for something, then you can actually achieve it. Because in this material world, we are told, whatever you have passion for, that's what you will achieve. You should be passionate for doing things. Without passion, nothing can happen. You're told so much about passion, passion, passion. But Krishna, what Krishna says about passion? Krishna says that passion is the mother of sin. And by passionate nature, one becomes lusty and envious. That's what passion makes us. It makes us lusty, it makes us envious. With lust and envy, can we understand Krishna? No, we cannot understand Krishna. This we will see in the next chapter, the next shloka, that the very nature of Krishna consciousness is that Krishna consciousness demands you to be non-envious. Krishna consciousness demands you to be non-envious. So if you are in mode of passion, you are simply having lust and envy. So with lust and envy, how can we appreciate Krishna? We cannot appreciate Krishna. So mode of passion is not good enough in Krishna consciousness. So the basic need to practice Krishna consciousness is that one should have mode of goodness. One should be in mode of goodness. If you remember, there's a book called Nectar of Instruction. And in Nectar of Instruction preface, Prabhupada actually brings up this point very nicely. We'll go to that book. Prabhupada brings up this point very, very nicely in the preface to Nectar of Instruction. Prabhupada says that one should control in all spiritual affairs, one should first of all control the mind and senses. And then Prabhupada says one should raise oneself to mode of goodness. And then Prabhupada says, then how to make further progress will be revealed. This is what Prabhupada says in the nectar of instruction. Where is the preface? Nectar of Instruction preface is a very, very important work. One should very carefully read this preface of Nectar of Instruction if one wants to understand how to practice Krishna consciousness. There are so many points there in the preface of Nectar of Instruction that itself is actually a big point. Okay. Here Prabhupada says, in spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control the mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone in this material world is engrossed in modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, Satoguna, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami. Then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. You see, very, very clear that it's not that we can be in passion and we can be in ignorance and we can actually advance in Krishna consciousness. That is only illusion. It's only illusion to think that I can be in passion, I can be in ignorance, and I can advance in Krishna consciousness also. Of course, one can advance from ignorance to passion, and then one can try to advance from passion to goodness. That's okay. But that's not real advancement. Real advancement in Krishna consciousness means that one is actually trying to go through the process of anartha nivritti. And one is trying to reach Nishtha. That is real advancement. And in order to do that, one should be in mode of goodness. And being in mode of goodness means to accept Shastra and to see everything which happens in life through the eyes of Shastra. Being in passion, being in ignorance means to see everything which happens in life through the understanding of the mind. There is mind and then there is Shastra. Okay. So Krishna explains the difference of this vision in 15th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains. He says that Utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanam va gunan vidam vimuda nana pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. He says that how the jiva enters a certain body and then goes through various experiences in that body, and how the jiva leaves that body to enter into only to enter into another body. Utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanan va gunam vidam. All this simply happening due to the influence of the modes. Vimuda nana pashyanti. A person who is not very intelligent, he cannot see this. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Those who actually see through the eyes of knowledge of scripture, they can actually see this. So everything which happens in our life, we can either see it through the mind's eye or we can see it through the eye of the Shastra. So seeing everything in mind's eye means to seeing everything by passion and ignorance. Seeing everything through Shastric knowledge means seeing everything through goodness. And when you see things through goodness, then you will be able to overcome your anarthas and you will be able to practice Krishna consciousness nicely. If we see everything through passion and ignorance, we will not be able to overcome our anarthas. Anarthas will overcome us. That's what will happen. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita very clearly that what is the nature of Rajoguna? Rajoguna produces lust. And what is the nature of lust? Lust destroys knowledge and realization. That is the nature of lust. Jnana Vijnana Nashanam, Krishna says. Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. Jnana means knowledge. Vijnana means realization. So both knowledge and realization will be destroyed by lust, which comes from Rajoguna. So therefore, in order to understand the prime subject matter, which is Krishna consciousness, neither passion nor ignorance is going to help. Definitely one should come to mode of goodness. Without coming to mode of goodness, one will not be able to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. To have taste for Srimad Bhagavatam, to be able to relish Bhagavatam, one should actually come to mode of goodness. One may say, no, I am relishing Bhagavatam, but I am in passion. It's possible, you may relish. But at the first available disturbance, you will lose your taste for Bhagavatam. That is what will happen. At the first available disturbance, the disturbance will overcome your taste for Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam will not overcome the disturbance. Now there are two situations. One situation is that there is some disturbance. In that situation, the disturbance overcomes your taste for Bhagavatam. The other situation is that there is some disturbance and Bhagavatam overcomes the disturbance because you have taste for Bhagavatam. So that situation is possible only when we try to situate ourselves in mode of goodness. If we simply are in passion and ignorance, then we may have some taste, but that later will be like a flickering taste. So it is better than not having taste, but it is not good. It is not good for our progress in Krishna consciousness. So, yes, Manohar Bija Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in this context, when we are discussing about, situating in Sattva Guna, referring to the Bhagavad Gita shlokas, and, situating in the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. The chapter says that Stuk Sange and Vandati Jnana Sange, but we also bind ourselves in some context of, relishing happiness and some, in that context, how can we understand that how that goodness is also not allowing us to relish it completely?
Yeah, if we get carried away by goodness, then it will not allow us to relish Bhagavatam. Then you will just become like some sort of connoisseur of art. You will become connoisseur of music. You will become connoisseur of nice, good food. You'll be, some people have very nice taste for food. Some people have very nice taste for music. Some people have very nice taste for art and dance and everything. The 64 art forms, why it came? The 64 art forms are there in this material world. The 64 art forms, why it came? It actually came as an expression of rasa. Because rasa is actually a feeling. Okay. Rasa and bhava, they are intangible. Okay. So there should be some tangible way of expressing it. So the tangible way of expressing rasa and bhava became the 64 arts. So therefore, Krishna is called as Kalanidhi and Radharani is called as Kalavati. Krishna is the reservoir of the 64 arts and Radharani is the best practitioner of the 64 arts. Okay. So basically, the 64 arts actually came into existence to facilitate the loving exchanges between the divine couple. That's why the 64 arts came into existence. Okay. But when a person simply gets carried away by the 64 arts for his own sense gratification, then that kind of mode of goodness is binding. When you understand that the 64 arts is simply meant for Radharani's and Krishna's pleasure, and it should be utilized for the pleasure of the divine couple, then you are clearly situated. That mode of goodness is actually in transcendental platform or Krishna conscious platform. That's good. But when the mode of goodness is not in Krishna conscious platform, it's simply a mode of goodness which is material in nature, then you simply have a higher grade of taste for sense gratification. But that grade of taste for sense gratification is also tinged with passion and ignorance. It's not that it is free of passion and ignorance. That's tinged with passion and ignorance. Therefore, anytime that passion will become powerful or anytime that ignorance will become powerful and just pull the person down back. So that's the problem. That is the problem.
Thank you so much.
So simply mode of goodness is also not useful. When that mode of goodness is utilized in Krishna consciousness, then it is useful. Yes, Giriraj.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I had questions from yesterday's class. That
Okay.
one you mentioned that the Shatdarshan of Smriti sections. So why did you say Shatdarshan of Smriti section? They are not part of Shrutis.
No, they are not part of Shruti. The darshanas are given by the sages. This is not the conclusion of Shruti. It's part of Smriti. That there are different sages, like for example, the atheistic Kapila, he gave the Sankhya philosophy. Then Jaimini, he gave Mimamsa philosophy. Kannada, he gave the Nyaya philosophy. And then like that, there are different sages who actually wrote their realizations of Shruti, the conclusion of Shruti, and that became the Shaddarshana. They are part of Smriti, they are not part of Shruti.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhu, second quote was, maybe if today is short of time, you can explain this tomorrow, that how you said different pastimes of Bhagavatam defeat different philosophies. Like you said, Jad Bharat defeated Nyaya philosophy, but how, if you can explain, then it will be very nice, Prabhuji.
Maybe you can explain, you can ask tomorrow this question.
Yes,
beginning,
Prabhuji.
I can
I'll
explain.
ask. Yes, yes, Prabhuji. I'll ask.
And yesterday somebody wanted to, I think Namrasita Mataji wanted to ask something about this mode of goodness section. She said that I want to ask something about this, you're saying. Or she wants to say
I think
something.
Rukmini Harisevani Mataji, Prabhuji, she asked.
No. I think Sita Mataji was asking.
Okay.
Prabhu, I was asking you regarding this Gayatri mantra only, which you are presently reading.
Yeah. So you got your answer, or you still have your question?
Prabhuji, why he invoked Gayatri mantra? I understood this. We have to be in mode of goodness in order to understand
So
Bhagavad.
the by invoking Gayatri, he is saying that unless you have Brahmanical qualities, you're not going to approach the Supreme. Because Gayatri means Brahmana only can chant. Of course, in Kali Yuga, people are putting Gayatri for calling bell also. This is all nonsense. Okay. You're not supposed to do all those things. Okay. Somebody gives Gayatri as ringtone, somebody puts Gayatri as calling bell. So people, Kali Yuga people are all, they don't have so much brain. They only have Kali Yuga brain. Okay. But in general, it is understood that Gayatri is meant to be chanted by Brahmanas. So if you invoke Gayatri, that means you are invoking Brahmanical platform. So you're already like for example, if you want to join a certain school, that school has its own standard of entrance examination. So the moment you say that I want to put my child in this school, then you have to prepare the child to actually take the entrance examination of that school with that standard. So that very name of the school actually comes with a certain perception of a certain standard. Like there's a corporation school, let us say. Then they say, okay, oh, it's all corporation school, anybody can go inside. Okay. But if you say some very big school, I don't know, whatever school, you say some very big school, and then you say, oh, if you have to get admission in that school, then it's very tough. You have to write some entrance exam. This, child should be qualified like this, child should be qualified like that. The very name of that school gives a perception of a certain standard, which actually defines a certain bar of entry. Right? So same way, the very invoking of Gayatri, it immediately sets a certain standard, and it actually sets a certain bar of entry. That you want to enter Bhagavatam, you better be in goodness. You are actually entering goodness zone. You're entering Brahmanical zone. You're entering a zone which will make sense for you if you have Brahmanical qualities. You can appreciate this better when you have Brahmanical qualities. If you don't have Brahmanical qualities, you're not going to appreciate what is happening here. Okay. That's why Bhagavatam is not appreciated by many people so easily. The first canto itself puts them off. Kunti Parani says, Vipatahasantu tahasaswa tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam epsyat apunar bhava darshanam. He says, oh, let all these calamities happen again and again, because by seeing you, we will not see this material world again. Now, even devotees are afraid of this prayer. Now, what is because non-devotees being afraid of this prayer? Even devotees are afraid of this prayer. Okay. They say, okay, why don't you chant Kutivarani Prabhu? Oh, I don't want to chant Kutivarani. I don't want any trouble. Now, you want Krishna. So, the point is that there is a certain bar of entry, which actually this invoking Dhimahi, the Gayatri mantra, it actually denotes a certain bar of entry. What is that bar of entry? That you should be able to accept Brahmanical standard. Brahmanical standard means what? Brahmanical standard means simple life. Brahmanical standard means voluntary poverty. Brahmanical standard means accept tolerating. Brahmanical standards means that all this, Shama, Dama, Tapa, Saucham, Shanti, Arjava, Mevacha, Jnana, Vijnana, Mastikyam, Brahma, Karma, Swabhavajam. Swabhavajam. Swabhavajam means what? Is simply born along with him as his nature. Swabhavajam. Is present with him. It is come to him as his very nature. So that is the picture it brings when you chant Gayatri, when you say Dhimahi, then that is the picture it brings. Then you start thinking, oh, should I enter Bhagavatam or should I not enter Bhagavatam? So that's why Dhimahi is there. It actually denotes a certain bar of entry. It actually denotes a certain standard. It brings a perception of a certain standard. That's why that particular word is there. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, we'll stop here. We'll meet next week on Tuesday.
Okay, Prabhuji. Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare
So, Hare Krishna. So, all of us, I think we all spiritually got enlivened from Prabhupada, from Prabhuji's classes, and we heartily thank Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Grace Harilila Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.